Okay, hello, welcome back to our Dishonored playthrough. Let us continue. Alright.
I look forward to my adventures with you, sir.
Okay, let's read, why not? Rumors and sightings, Dodd. From an overseer's core field report. For over a year now, I've lived away from the Abbey without the company of my overseer brethren or the guidance of their line sisters of the oracular order. Days have passed with me sleeping in dens of cut purses and murders and wars, and the nights have seen me prowling through the worst alleys and wretched corners of Downwall. I have taken my meals with killers, and at times I ventured beyond the city walls, meeting in forgotten graveyards and the outlying ruins frequented by those of ill means. My beard, what? My beard? Yeah, has grown long, and I wear the weathered clothing and bits of boiled leather favored by the bottled string and hater gangs, or hatter, yeah, hatter, that makes more sense. And by those rough men and women who make their trade knifing each other in return for coin. My hands have run red with blood, it's true, but I have selected my targets with care, choosing among those criminals and heretics who were not fit to live, executing them justly and using their deaths as means of building my reputation. So far, this trick has allowed me to make my name among the murderous colleagues without taking the lives of the innocent. My goal is singular. I must impress the assassin named Dodd in order to get close to him. Of all the practitioners of the black magic we have tracked, none concerned the Abbey as much as Dodd. It is said that his mother was a witch from one of the archipelagos of the Pandesian coast, taken captive by pirates venturing far from the Isles. According to the legend, by the time the ship returned, the captain was dead and the witch controlled the crew, with Dodd still a shadow in her belly. The earliest stories of a gun killer without mercy moving among the shopkeepers and city watch officers of Downwall like a reaper through wheat. Then a period of silence followed, years we now believe he spent traveling the Isles, studying anatomy and the occult in great halls of learning and in hidden basements frequented by fellow dabblers in the forbidden arts. Dodd is ever purported to have spent a winter in the Academy of Natural Philosophy itself, and for a time before a schism developed, he counted the Brickmore witches among his allies. And all the while he honed his craft, in it, and it is during this time that we believe he began to consort with the outsider. New reports emerge of a dusky-skinned assassin paid by the elite to eliminate their rivals in Dungwall and the other major cities across the Isles. Those who saw him and lived numbered in the handful, but all of them reported something strange. He appeared and vanished like smoke. From a nearby rooftop he gestured, and a noble woman stumbled from her balcony, falling to her doom on the cobblestones below. More recently, as this new threat of plague has risen in Dongwall, Dodd has been seen leading a gang of men in dark leather. I wonder if this Dodd is the guy that murdered the Empress, dressed as factory whalers in their vapor masks. They seem loyal beyond comprehension for one so unworthy, leading me to wonder if some of his magic is dedicated to lulling their minds and enslaving them. Only a month ago, one young girl claims to have come upon a strange scene. Carrying a bottle of milk home to her crippled brother, she was taking a shortcut through the Taylor's district. In a narrow street, she passed beneath a window and heard unusual sounds from within. Pushing aside the ratty curtain, the girl saw into an abandoned apartment used by miscreants for gambling and trading waterweed. An occult shrine had been erected against the far wall, which she recognized from the teachings given by her local overseer. A man she described as resembling Darth was kneeling before the shrine, muttering to an unseen spirit, as if in argument. He took a carving made of pale bone from the altar before him, and the lights all went out in a gush of unclean air, wind. Quiet as a field mouse, she slipped away, running until she reached her home. There can be no doubt. Doubt is an agent of the outsider and must die, for there is no limit to the evil this man might do. This is my solemn oath and the great purpose of my life. Until Dodd is dead and his corruption has been purged from the world, I shall continue to move among the depraved, winding my way toward him. I will not drop my guise or don my Orseus mask again until Dodd breathes no more. Well, this guy is really committed. Field survey notes the royal spy. Personal memoirs of Hiram Burroughs, dated several years earlier. This is the fourth day, month of high cold. Progress continues on the suppression of gang activity in the distillery district, but more slowly than I would expect. The ruffians operating there have been cunning, I'll grant them that, but it's only a matter of time. I'll see their leaders flogged in public and sent beneath the royal executioner's table. If I had my way, that mute bastard would be working night and day, removing the heads that need removing. Internally, the Empress does not seem pleased with my investigations. It seems that it is beyond her thinking, against her very nature as a trusting person, to believe that traitors move among us. But I know they do. They must. No, Jessamine would rather spend her time with the royal protector. I guess that was me. At least he's likely to stop an immediate threat to her safety. But a strong arm is not what's needed against those who would undermine us. How will Corvo sword stop a poisoned wine glass or an explosive delivered by courier? It will not. There are many threats around us, threats requiring meticulous efforts to police. Young Lady Emily is undisciplined, I'm afraid. Here within Dunwall Tower she receives instruction from the finest tutors known in the Isles, yet her mother spoils her and she spends most of her time lost in imagination, wasting her time drawing, playing video games, or asking Corvo to teach her to fight with wooden sticks. The girl might rule the Empire someday. Even every moment spent at play is a moment wasted. Hear that, my fellow gamers? Sure enough, security for the main gate leading into Longwood Tower has been another pet project of late. To think that back in his day, Emperor Caldwin left it open to the public during the day, allowing anyone to come and go as they pleased. If it were up to me, I would seal off access to the streets entirely, but the Empress won't hear of it. The water clock is much easier to protect, and if it were the only way into the tower, traffic in and out would be greatly reduced. Someday the wrong person is going to slip in and will suffer for it. Mark my words. No amount of security is excessive when it comes to protecting heads of state. Okay. I guess this guy would be pretty happy in the NSA. The Empress also disapproves of my plans for the Sokolov devices. Sokolov himself has no interest in security, of course, but he's vain and therefore keen to see his inventions deployed in any fashion. This wall of light he's been tinkering Weed has promised. In any case, at least I was able to convince the Empress to upgrade the pistols carried by the officers of the Watch. Why do I worry so when no one else seems to care? Even if I fall asleep, will it all sink into the ocean? Will the rough things clamber over the walls and feel themselves on our flesh? This is what I see in the same dream several times each month. If only I had more say in things, more authority, I could protect us all. Perhaps I have been working too hard. Dinner and evening of conversations with a certain lady of refinement might be in order. Perhaps somewhere nice in the State District. Royal Spy Master. Isn't this guy the actual Lord Protector now? Regent? Lord Regent? I think he is. A real life and criminal record. Slakio. Series of letters sent by members of the Bottle Street Gang. Okay, you want the chinwag on Slakio was what he was like when he was young before he got his name. Okay, he's got a cool head now, but it weren't anyway always like that in the days before he was boss of the Bottle Street Gang. Time was young Slakio wasn't such a reasonable man. Like most of us, he grew in the streets, running with a pack of ragamuffins and avoiding the law, pitching whatever he needed. Dark-haired and dark-eyed, smoking a pipe by the age of 10. For them born into the brothers or coming from the orphanages, it was either the gangs or working with the mud larks, and no one wants that. Some got pressed into the Navy or put down in the mines run by the Pendleton or Boyle families. As hard as it was on the streets, as hungry as we all got, at least we was free. By the time we weren't little uns anymore, Slakio was one to watch, usually calling the shots when we took down a farmer's cart or sidewalk street vendor. He would come up with a plan, give everyone some part to play and decide on the split. Most of us just went along, cause we learned fast that we made out better like that. More food, more coin. Plus none of us wanted to deal with Slakio when he was in a range. Yeah, that's the kicker. He worked on a couple of big jobs with Black Sally across town, and that was enough to get the attention of the other bosses. He wasn't just a street kid anymore. Now he was an up-and-comer, which meant trouble. Another guy who fancied himself as such was Mike the Fish, who was working his way up running the protection racket among the factory women. One fine evening, we were all taking in a bawdy show in the theater house. Mike the Fish and his lot are there in the cheap seats too, just down the aisle from us. Mike gets a wild idea he wasn't big on planning and throws a heavy ceramic splitoon at Slakio. Hits him square in the face and breaks his jaw. And we look to see if there is gonna be a blood brawl, but Slakio just points at the door and we all leave, like with Mike laughing at our backs. Waking up the next day without telling us why, Slakio motions us to follow. He still can't say a word, so we just come along. We stop at the docks and Slakio buys, actually pays coin for it, a heavy chain covered in hooks. It is for fishing in the deep, something we would attach to a long line of the side of a ship. This about 4 feet, made of thick links, and there are shark hooks coming off it in different angles. Slakio got that thing wrapped around his arm, dangling at his side. Not sure how he knew where Mike the Fish was staying, but when we reach his girl's house, Slakio throws a bottle through the window just like that. It's almost noon. There's a bunch of screaming inside and Mike pokes his head out, looking wide-eyed and baffled. When he sees Slakio out in the street, a look comes over his face that still gives me the willies. Pure murder. Mike comes out the door bellowing like a blood dog's. holding a cleaver and heading straight for Slakio. When they come together in the street, Slakio pins and the shark hooks Spike deep into Mike's arm and shoulder. He screams, but Slakio holds onto a chain. He's standing there with his jaw broken, clenched tight, with the chain wrapped around his left arm. Hook sunk into Mike the fish, just knifing him as fast as he can. Mike couldn't fight very well, hooked like that and using his left hand, but he was a big guy and it took a lot of his time before he went to his knees. Everyone was cheering at first, but then we all went quiet. We just kept going and going until finally it was just Mike the fish blubbering, crying like a baby, and the sound of a slack-jaw knife. When it was all over, and here's the brilliant part, Slackjaw took out a note and stuck it to Mike's face with a nail. It just said, if you want a job, come to Bottle Street. Slackjaw didn't talk right for a couple of months, but word spread fast. By the end of the year, once we had a sizable gang going, he sent out letters to their bosses telling them that he was running a brand new crew at Bottle Street. Most of them laughed or beat up the guys who delivered the letters. Green-eyed Trish then came back missing a thumb, but apparently Slackjaw was expecting that kind of reaction and had a backup plan. Yeah, this guy likes to instill fear. Uh, a week later, four of the bosses were dead. Seemed like a series of unfortunate events, but everyone knew better. One shot dead by the watch while standing in the middle of a meat market, another sleeping and falling into the water, out cold. One of the older bosses found in bed with his belly opened wide and a Tibian pear stuffed into his mouth. Still not sure what that meant, and Sheila Barnsworth was found boiling in a cauldron of hot wax. Slackjaw sent out another set of letters, offers to the underbosses, telling them they had been treated fair as peers. He even sent Green-Eyed Trish with one of the letters. All of the underbosses accepted. After spilling the guts of his main competition, Slackjaw went in for stabilizing his business, real neat-like, calling in favors, smoothing things over, giving everyone a little bit of coin or drink as a bonus, showing what he could be like as a boss. So everything got quiet, which always makes the voice of the city watch nervous, of course. Word went out among the Royal Spy Masters snitches, the responsible citizens group they called themselves, telling everyone working in a shop or sweeping off the front steps of their homes to keep watchful eyes for Slackjaw and his men, trying to suss out what they were up to and what had happened. But Slackjaw ain't stupid. He greased a few palms along the shopkeepers and the watch too, telling them that he was in town to stay and that things would be run properly from now on without so much blood. He was finally a real boss, ready to settle into business of moving whiskey, running the hound fights and offering up the ladies and gentlemen of the night if you take my meaning. Then the plague came. Yeah, a good uh, efficient, organized crime is better than anarchy, one could say. At first, it seemed like a good thing. A few people got sick and everyone wanted to buy those potions from Sokolov or Piero. Health elixir or spiritual remedy, they called them. Slackjaw told me he saw an opportunity. He already had an old whiskey factory with a still where he would water the stuff down and then sell it discounted. Doing the same with Sokolov's elixir was a smart plan. Pretty soon everyone in the slum was sick and business was good, but after a while there were so many people down with the plague that everyone got scared. Everyone started acting real nasty and everything fell apart. When people can't work, they don't have the coin for elixir, watered down or pure. When the Empress died, it seemed like Dunwall would slide into the void. Spy Master Burrows took over and the Watches started using all that new circle of technology. Watchtowers, tall boys, and them arc pylons. They put up a wall of light across the glowing boulevard, and cracked down hard. But Slackjaw surprised us again. Instead of leaving town on a boat bound for Morley or one of the other islands, he stayed and kept it all together. We get as much elixir to fight off the plague as the city watch with their taxes and rations, and that kept us alive so far. Well, that guy really loves his people. The Journal of Granny Rags, except from the ramblings of a street denizen. Okay.
Of course I'll tell you, dearie. I won't keep any secrets from you in the end. All the dreary days of my life are like the windows of a house. From the kitchen I can see out into the garden where the leaves and stalks are brown and bug-eaten. You can see a little lump of dirt where something was wrapped in a blanket and laid to rest along the rows of twisting vines. The front rooms look out into a street where the neighbors are all setting fire to their homes, barricading themselves inside, warm and snug, dearie. Don't forget about the bedroom either. It's in a dreary alley where hooligans are playing a game with an old man. First two are hitting him with sticks and the girl with them is kicking out his dried old ribs. Oh, to have those bones, to boil them into a pot.
What the fuck? Is she a cannibal?
No one lives in my house anymore, dearie, because I ate them all. No one you would want to meet. When I lived here with my husband, we were fine people. Beramori, I knew everyone would say, your house is as grand as a Boyle Manor.
Beramori, okay. I guess Granny Rags is her alias.
Better than your dinners are lavish and your parties are the best. When that young Sokolov came to paint my portrait, I was nearly still in my prime. Radiant, he said. He was barely a man, so young, painting all the best people across the land. Everyone wanted a portrait by his hand, all my friends. I was the only one, dearie, wet with his paint, glistening on the canvas for a pretty coin. But it wasn't all parties and paintings. My husband and I weren't always at home, no. We traveled together, he and I, to the far end of the Isles, beyond even, all the way to the red cliffs of Pandicia to dig in the rock and crawl through the caves, holding up candles and squinting at the walls. Many precious things we came upon, but none so precious as the boy with the black eyes, dearie. All those marks and bones carved so deep, the polish so bright. I brought the old bones home, hid them from my dear husband. I learned to boil them and carve them myself. They made such good presents, dearie. The little mute boy took them home. He loved them. All the time he came back for new ones from me, holding them up so I could see it in my eyes, even though his tongue was still. Granny, his eyes would say to me, carve these bones for me. Make me another present. And he went so far all the way to Dungwall Tower, the royal headsman himself now. My little mute boy and his shiny sword.
Huh. Amazing.
Better bones were what I needed, you see. Better bones to carve and polish, scrape and gleam. My dear old husband was always tired. I made him a soup and then he was sick.
I guess that's no coincidence.
Better bones was all. For my little mute boy, carved in the name of the one with black eyes.
I wondered if that's the outsider.
And after my husband was gone, given away as birthday gifts, I didn't want to live there anymore. So now I'm old and don't have many to give my presents to. I'm sifting through the garbage for granny racks and feeding the little birdies that gather at my feast. No one wants to have tea, dearie, especially those rude louts on Bottle Street. Slacky and his boys, always meddling with an old woman just trying to make her way. In the end we'll be together with him, you and me, in the dreary night with stars above and below, and always the one with the black eyes, dearie.
Always. Interesting.